Brian O'Driscoll, a rugby player, says, knowledge is knowing that tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad. I just thought that was funny. Yeah. So there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. No one may achieve success without first knowing precisely what he wants, Napoleon Hill. So right now, tune into exactly what you want. It's a year from now. It all worked out. It all worked out. Your health and relationships and vocation, time and money freedom, it all worked out. And you're grateful for that. And even at least as much so, if not more so, you're grateful for who you've become in the process, how it feels to be in your own skin, how much gratitude you live in and walk in, how a kind of the exponential growth that you've experienced this past year. Hill says, study any person who is known to be a permanent or ongoing success, and you will find they have a definite major goal that they keep evolving. You hit that goal and you expand and go to the next. Life is never done with us as long as it's breathing us. They have a definite major goal and they have a plan for the attainment of the goal. They devote the major portion of their thought and their efforts to the attainment of this purpose. Not every thought, not every action, but the major portion is coming from the frequency of you being the person having this, being this, doing this in your life. Knowledge will not attract money unless it's organized and intelligently directed through practical plans of action to the definite end of the accumulation of money, the love of your life, the health you desire, whatever the form is, it requires not the knowledge unless it's organized and intelligently directed. Now, I was using and let me read this one too. Lack of knowledge, lack of understanding of this fact has been the source of confusion to millions of people who falsely believe that knowledge is power. Knowledge is only potential power, and information is not knowledge. Here we come to the difference between knowing something and knowing about something. We know about things before we know them. When we know them, our life represents them. I mean, you can see it in the results of our lives. Up until then, we know about abundance, and lots of people can speak abundance. But when you look at their results, they're not a growing abundance. And there's actually a lot of teachers out there teaching about abundance, but the teaching of it is one thing, but it's an inspired idea. You know, you kind of get excited thinking about it, but you only really know something when your life bears witness to it. And I know many of you are having more abundance right now in your life. Many of you are having more love, more friends, more life. You feel more alive by means of your study and your work. And sometimes it looks like a little sprout. You don't want to stomp on the sprout and say, I want an oak tree. Every oak tree starts as a sprout. You nurture that sprout. You celebrate that sprout. And yeah, I had more energy today, or I had this or that today. Know the difference between, there's a difference knowing about and knowing something. When I worked with my mentor, Jack Mullen, and there came that moment when he was I didn't know how sick he was till he came to Oregon to speak in January of 1992. I knew he was sick. I knew he had some cancer, but I didn't know how sick he had become. And when he and I had breakfast the day he would speak to, a couple thousand people we had coming that night, I just, my heart, I love that man so much. And finally he said, I don't want to talk about me anymore. I want to talk about you. And I told him about the vision we had for a facility for the work I was doing, and I had it so clear in my mind in the way that you do with your scaffolding images. I could literally walk him through it imaginally. I said, so Jack, imagine it's 10 years from now and you walk into this building. And then I took him into, then there's a kitchen area feeds 400 to 500 people at a time. And we have this kids village where all a child has to do is walk in and they know that learning about God is fun. This is fun. It's not just, and a retreat center and all of the many things we dreamed up, and a sanctuary with natural light streamed in. We'd been meeting in a movie theater. So my desire was to have natural light streaming into this sanctuary. And I'm like here it is. I'm stepping into it and I can feel it. And he goes, so why are you squeezing the infinite into a 10-year plan? I said, well, because we have $40,000 in our building fund. This is a $10 million dream. And he looked at me like, have I not taught you anything? Because what was I doing in that moment? My plan was a plan using resources I thought I had. I missed the major resource I had, which was the infinite. There was no room for the infinite in that plan. Could we have done it in 10 years the way most people create results? Yes, but that is not brave thinking. It's common hour thinking. And it is so common that we can allow ourselves to get trapped in that and not even know we're there. And he says, you could operate your 10-year plan, but keep a corner of your mind open. Mary, you could have that building this year. He says, do you believe that? Now, whatever your thing is that you think is your 3-year, 5-year goal, imagine this master teacher looking at you and saying the same thing. You can have that this year. And notice inside you the resistance, like, or maybe you have no resistance. But most of us, when it's something we've never done before and never allowed before, we have this. And so he says, you could have it this year. Do you believe that? And I told him the truth. I said, I believe you believe that. And then he looked at me, and it was, they say the eyes are the window to the soul. I mean, it was like he looked deep inside me, and he said, then believe in my belief. And I knew when I left that breakfast that I was changed. I would wish that for you every time you come to Brave Thinking. That when you leave your Brave Thinking class, you have this feeling like, I've been changed here. I've allowed more. I've moved myself. Even sometimes it's just a little inch. But you want to own that. And I just walked out that door. Nothing had changed in my material world. But I knew that I was changed. I now had a corner of my mind open to possibility that was not there when I walked into that breakfast. Jack believes it could happen. If Jack believes it could happen, maybe it could happen. It was just that move. That move. Because I will tell you, and I know it to be true, that things can happen in your life that you can't even imagine can happen, that make welcome and make way and provide resources for you to be and do and have exactly what you're dreaming of way faster than you think. But you got to have a corner of your mind open to that possibility.